A wise man once said, eras come to an end. And then Erik Ten Hag said it as well.
Erik, thank you very much.
Please.
Manchester United have finally taken the plunge and sacked manager Erik Ten Hag, with the Red Devils sat in a disappointing 14th place in the Premier League table. United fans are thankful. All other fans are depressed. But is a simple managerial change really going to save them? Where do Manchester United go from here? I've got to say, lad, thank you for the memories. Erik Ten Hag may have genuinely given me one of my most enjoyable moments as a Liverpool fan over like the last 2 or 3 years. It's crazy, like genuinely speaking, this man has done a lot for the Premier League. And I mean the other teams in the Premier League. Supporters of Chelsea, Man City, Tottenham, Arsenal would have been practically begging Sir Jim Ratcliffe to keep him in charge, convincing United's board to keep him in the role because he's got a family to feed at home. Let's be honest, this is a decision that's been coming for a while, even longer than the start of this season, for fuck's sake. So Jim and the INEOS board will be reminiscing about the amount of times they almost sacked Erik over the last year.
I think it was probably around 95, 96, was it? 94, 95, 96.
Meanwhile, there'll be only one man for the job, walking out as United's new boss when they welcome Chelsea to Old Trafford this weekend.
There he is. Look at this twat. They do it on purpose.
Now, this sacking obviously comes off the back of El Sacico. Genuinely, it actually claimed a victim here. I was kind of joking, but it has ended up happening. Yeah, in the end, West Ham United burst Erik's bubble again. Julian Lopetegui ended up getting the better of Erik Ten Hag. To be honest with you, West Ham were very lucky to get a result here. United could have been 4-5-0 up in the first half alone. But wastefulness, in the end, has cost Erik his job, along with a very dodgy penalty decision at the end we don't need to talk about. Because after Alejandro Garnacho and Bruno Fernandes provided less finishing than a Wayne Bridge and John Terry get-together drinks, Diogo Dalot, quite frankly, took the piss. Rounding Lucas Fabianski, seeing an empty net in front of him, then looking over to Erik Ten Hag down on the touchline and blazing the ball into Canary Wharf.
He's bloody missed it. What a prat.
I only just realised now there's a towel on my chair. Just didn't clock that the whole time. Erik probably would have needed this with the shower of shit that his Manchester United players produced in front of goal last weekend. Honestly, I don't understand how, as a professional footballer, you can round Fabianski in that situation and then miss from there. It's a conspiracy. It has to be. They're genuinely trying to get him out on purpose. Either way, after wasting so many opportunities and still coming out on the losing side, Erik Ten Hag was readying his usual excuses in the press conference at full time. In any other walk of life, right, having 14 of something would be a good thing. We have 14 whole positions in the table, so personally, if I'm Erik, by the way, I'm becoming a Feyenoord fan, because the Ajax players that you bought have let you down disastrously. He'll be breaking into Ajax's stadium looking to hire a familiar face for one final time. Guys, come on, please. Surely there's someone that works here for sorting out hair transplants, but my head shape is mad. Erik, get the fuck out. There's a reason we put a restraining order in. Meanwhile, at Liverpool, Arne Slot's gutted he didn't get to actually face Erik at Anfield. Again, I think, you know, look, listen, United, I would implore you to reconsider. I think this is a wholly, vastly unfair sacking. At the end of the day, this man has been getting points for 19 other Premier League teams on a regular basis at the same time. Plus, he leaves the job, having been wildly underwhelming over the last 18 months, with still more silverware than Mikel Arteta's got at Arsenal. So, to be honest with you, I don't think United fans will care too much for that silverware after 2 years of legitimate depression under Erik. Then there's the question of how the players are going to react to this news. Diogo Dalot will be looking in his car mirrors petrified when Premier League fans are chasing him down the street for getting their beloved Erik Ten Hag sacked. Beloved is probably not one word that Amad Diallo would use to describe the former Manchester United manager after being left on the bench and left out at so many opportunities when realistically he is ready for the occasion. He is ready to step into United's first team. He'll have been eating readily at Erik's United funeral and sending a letter straight to INEOS jail for the Dutchman to read.
I knew you'd end up here, little nigga. Right where you belong.
And as for Jadon Sancho, he really never got along with Erik at all, despite them settling their differences slightly over the summer. But now Chelsea loanee will be joyous knowing he can return to Carrington next summer without getting hate crimed. What about the players that were brought in by Erik, those that have a bit more of a bond with him, the guys that played under Ten Hag as well at Ajax? Well, INEOS and the United board will have a tough time explaining the situation to Lisandro Martinez this morning. Meanwhile, for Anthony, and let's be honest, whoever comes in as a new manager from this point onwards is probably not going to give him too much of a chance when he he walks into the manager's office asking for a bit more game time.
Fuck off.
I mean, to be fair, at this point, 50% of the dressing room speaks Dutch. So new caretaker manager Ruud van Nistelrooy shouldn't have too much of a difficult time adapting. Tyrell Malacia will be left confused and bamboozled walking into the manager's office and thinking that Erik's been to Turkey for a transplant. Let's be honest, Ruud van Nistelrooy hasn't even met Tyrell Malacia yet, and he's been here since the summer. Now that is one obvious choice for a replacement here for Erik Ten Hag, is Ruud van Nistelrooy, who's come in as an assistant manager to work under Erik Ten Hag. He's now going to be caretaker until United find, I guess, their first target. He's a United icon. For me, actually one of the most underrated Premier League greats, I think, of the early 2000s, because he always gets rubbed out in comparison to a Thierry Henry, when in reality he's probably one of the most stone-cold killer strikers that the Prem's ever seen. He's also the blackest candidate for this role as well, after being pictured a while ago in blackface during a Dutch traditional festival. Bit rude of him, really, you could argue. Yeah, look, I can't remember the history. I remember learning the history of this festival ages ago. It's kind of racist to everybody else, but not in the Netherlands, apparently, but whatever. Either way, though, Amad Diallo, I'm sorry if you thought you were getting in the first team. No, your chances are still pretty limited here. And Ruud's first interview will be a little bit suspicious, addressing claims he's favouring the caucasity in the dressing room.
My kids go to the school with the different Indian people, for black people, for normal people.
Let's be honest though, the Premier League striking great won't be favouring any caucasity when he sees Rasmus Højlund in training for the first time. From one offensive pick to another though now, and Gareth Southgate has been linked heavily with this job over the last 6 months. It's been known obviously for a while that he wasn't going to be continuing as England manager, and Thomas Tuchel will be the new England manager after the next set of internationals. But Gareth Southgate has apparently been admired by the INEOS group for some time, and they feel that he'd be a good fit as Manchester United manager. Genuinely, I think United fans might actually have to go on to suicide watch here if they go from Ten Hag to Gareth Haramble. You laugh now, lads, but I promise you, you'll laugh even more probably at this eventuality. However, reliable sources are now claiming that current sporting manager Ruben Amorim is in fact Manchester United's top priority. A deal is being worked on to bring him in as United coach. It would cost them 10 million euros to hire the 39-year-old, who has been very, very impressive in Portugal and on the European stage. This would genuinely be a pretty good appointment, surprisingly for Manchester United. Well, that is until he arrives and his team were immediately 3-1 down to Ipswich at half-time, and he realises that none of these players have got any bottle about them.
You have no balls! Testicle fortitude!
He'll be ripping that shirt off Anthony immediately when the Brazilian's on his third 360 no-scope in the first half. All I'm saying is, lads, let's just run it back to the good old days, alright? Let's just, for the sake of argument, Manchester United just hire a manager that's got some hair. Guys, it's not too much to ask. The bald revolution is going too far. But for all of the things that I've said about Erik Ten Hag and for all the complaints that United fans have made about the Dutchman, is this really a wider issue than just Erik? Now, don't get it twisted. I don't think he was a particularly strong manager really at all. Tactically, I thought he was naive often. I think in the first year that he was in charge, he just seemingly didn't enjoy using a midfield at all. And for a while, he kind of got away with it. But either way, despite those weaknesses, he still finished third in his first season as manager and obviously won silverware as well. Albeit a Carabao Cup, it's still something. Do you know what I mean? That's not bad as a first season at United, to be honest. But then to finish 8th, the worst finish of any Manchester United side in the Premier League era, was an unmitigated disaster. I say unmitigated. There was probably one excuse that Ten Hag utilised a lot, which was injury crises. And to be fair, I don't think he really ever had a time where he had an entire squad fit. He battled with 2 major injury crises. They've got loads of injuries at the moment as well, which often see a 108-year-old Johnny Evans playing at centre-back still. Now, one time I always go back to as a Liverpool fan was when we were in the depths as well, where we had no centre-backs. Van Dijk was out with a knee injury. Matip had the structural integrity of a box of cornflakes. And half the time we were playing Jordan Henderson and or Reece Williams at centre-back. And the amount of chopping and changing that we had to do in terms of centre-back partnerships was impossible. We were genuinely so poor because there was absolutely no cohesion between a set back line. So they have struggled there, but finishing 8th is still crazy given the players that they did have fit. Not only that, he was undermined in terms of his integrity and his leadership even further with the shambles that was the end of last season. You know, INEOS saying basically they weren't going to keep hold of him. They were going to replace him before an FA Cup final, then getting rejected by all of their targets, only for him to win the FA Cup final and then say, oh, fuck it, we'll give you another chance. They flirted flirted with everybody and got no gal, no BBM pins at all. To be honest with you, they were setting him up for failure for this season anyway, because it meant as soon as there was any bad run of form, he had to get the chop, because everybody knew that they wanted him out in the first place. Now, there were a lot of positions that were filled above Erik Ten Hag, where they were poached from other Premier League clubs, like sporting directors and stuff, which seemed like INEOS wanting to make a step in the right direction, and it definitely led to a new direction in terms of recruitment. In the 22-23 season, and from the start of the Erik Ten Hag reign, it's fair to say that recruitment and talent ID let Erik Ten Hag down massively. Pretty much all of the signings he's made, maybe apart from Lisandro Martinez, have just been shocking. Antony, for £100 million, is genuinely one of the worst pieces of business to happen on British soil, of any category ever. Rasmus Højlund, a bit of a difficult one. He's a young striker, but I think the price tag, again, is killing him a little bit. He's had a lot of times where he's needed a lot more service, to be honest, at United. And Mason Mount was such a puzzling one, because that looked shit at the time. Casemiro's legs were old. He was done completely, and he's got no resale value. As I mentioned, I think Lisandro Martinez is pretty good, although extremely small.
Do you think that's necessary?
But the recruitment from this season's been completely different. Average age of the players involved, 22, around about, much younger, not as many, risky signings. But truthfully, if I was a United fan, I'd be happy at the fact that Ten Hag's gone. I think that was needed. I think that was overdue. That had to happen last season, to be honest, at the end of last season. But this is now a ridiculous cycle of managers that United have gone through, generally speaking, since Sir Alex. Varying types, different styles of managers, and a lot of them have been unsuccessful. Problem is, though, is Sir Jim Ratcliffe really the guy to deliver them that success? I mean, if you look at basically any of his sporting ventures, they've all been disasters. INEOS and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are also the owners of OGC Nice in Ligue 1, and when he bought the club in 2019, he promised that he was going to have them fighting with the likes of Paris Saint-Germain for Ligue 1 titles within 5 years. It has now been 5 years, and a pair of 5th places are the best that they've been able to achieve, alongside finishing 9th in the 22-23 season and 9th in the 2020-21 season. They've barely really competed on a European stage, and they qualified for the Europa League twice, which is not terrible, really, for a side like Nice, but it's no better or different, really, than they were achieving before INEOS. In fact, even as recently as last season, the fan groups of the club were in complete crisis, calling for a change of ownership, not happy with INEOS in the way that they were running the club, in terms of purchases, the lack of investment, and general recruitment of players at the club. Club captain Dante even came out and criticized the ownership of the club, or the management of the club, so to speak, in itself. When you've got your own captain coming out and saying the management of the club is bad, that is a problem. That's even without Swiss side Lausanne, who I think was the first team that Sir Jim Ratcliffe bought, who have been a complete unmitigated disaster. After promising that he was going to take them back to the top of the Swiss divisions, having been successful in the late 90s, they instead got relegated almost immediately and have bounced between the 1st and 2nd division of Swiss football since, with yet more promises broken about infrastructure and links to other football clubs with that team too. So his overall track record is bad footballing wise, and I remember thinking this at the time when he was being linked with obviously buying Chelsea Football Club, and then when he did inevitably end up purchasing a stake in Manchester United and will now oversee the footballing side of things. I genuinely don't think the actual operating of the club has got much better since the Glazers. Jim is going to have to do a lot more than he's done so far to prove to United fans that he's genuinely the man to lead them out of the rut post Sir Alex Ferguson. What do you guys think? What do you make of it? Is this the right decision to get rid of Erik Ten Hag? For me, I'm gutted. So who would you bring in if you're United's board right now? What manager do you want to see in charge of United if you are a Red Devils fan? If you enjoyed this video though, feel free to slap a like on it, and of course subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at @officialfng on Twitter and on Insta. And if you want to support the channel, you can become a channel member, get yourself early content, and you'll get some cool emotes for a series that I'm bringing back very soon, as well as some other cool perks too in the near future. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.